Am I the a-hole for not calling my dad sooner? I recently asked my father if I could use one of his cars to go to an elderly client's house to do her makeup for her 80th birthday. I also said I wanted to take my boyfriend, 23M, with me and get sushi afterwards. I told him I would be back by 19:00. He got irritated and said that he has the feeling that he recently got upset with me for not sticking to a curfew. I informed him that he was wrong and I have life 360, so I had sufficient evidence to prove this. I also thought he was being ridiculous since I am not a child anymore. So the day of the makeup appointment, I drove to client's house. The client lives on a large private property that has been turned into a type of town, almost like an estate or complex. I didn't call my father when I entered the main gate since I was still on the road and on my way to the house. Keep in mind, we are very familiar with this area, so my father knows exactly where it is and how long it should take us to get there. I had some trouble finding the client's house and couldn't get a hold of her or her son, so it took a while to reach the house. As we entered the house after greeting my client and her son, I told my boyfriend to please let my father know that we are at the client's house. As he was taking my phone out of my bag, it started ringing. It was my father. My boyfriend told him we just arrived at the client's house. My father started yelling about us not letting him know that we were there and lying about where we were and how long we took to get there. I took the phone and tried to explain to my father that there were construction work being done on a large stretch of road, there were a lot of trucks and I am scared of passing trucks, and we couldn't find the house and we couldn't get a hold of the people. My dad just yelled over me and said that I wouldn't drive an hour longer than usual just because of that, and that I do not keep to my promises. By the way, I never promised to let him know that I was there, I just know that he expects it of me. I even sent him my life 360 history to show him my departure and arrival times. He freaked out because there are 15 minutes unaccounted for. I think that the app just didn't pick up on our movement in the 15 minutes we were in the client's street trying to find the correct house because we were mobbing in a very small area. When we got home in the afternoon, my father told my boyfriend, with a very nasty attitude, "We just arrived," means that you just arrived, not that you have been there for 40 minutes. Even my mother, who is never on my side with anything, ever thinks that my father is being rude and unfair. I feel like my father is going to say that I am not allowed to see my boyfriend anymore. And I don't know what to do. And before you say, "Just move out, you are an adult." I really can't currently afford to move out, and my boyfriend is currently looking after his mother, 65F, so he can barely afford his own place and his own food. He is in no position to take me in right now, but he is working towards it. He just started a third job, so it might go better in the nearish future. I am going for training in June, after which I will be placed to work on a cruise ship after 3 to 6 months. Until then I am kind of stuck since nobody wants to hire someone who will only be able to work for 6 months. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not telling my stepmom that my dad cheated? For context, my mom and dad are divorced. It was a messy divorce and I was about 1 year old. I am now 17. Since they are divorced, I would spend every other weekend at his house and the rest of the time at my mom's. When I first figured something was wrong, I was around 13, my little sister and I were sleeping in the living room. This was something we did often. We had built a fort and fell asleep watching a movie. About 12:40 a.m. I see my dad come out of his room fully dressed. I was confused but pretended to sleep. I saw him sneak out of the house through the back door. A few minutes after he left, I went to my sister's room and saw his car was no longer in the driveway. I thought nothing of it and went back to bed. Fast forward a few weeks and I get out of school to see 2 dating apps had randomly installed on my phone. I was confused at first, then realized my phone was connected to my dad's. I felt sick to my stomach, like I wanted to scream at him and confront him. But I didn't. This cycle continues for a few months of my dad leaving in the middle of the night. Am I the asshole for not telling my stepmom sooner? Mind you, I was 12 to 13 years old when it all happened. My dad and stepmom are now divorced and I've cut contact with him and haven't spoken to him since. AITA? Story 3. Am I the a-hole for wanting a divorce? My wife and I have been married since 2020. Things were great initially, but she has become a totally different person over time. She started talking so nastily about people about 6 months into the marriage, and it has only gotten worse. She is constantly paranoid that all of her co-workers and subordinates are out to get her. She calls me fat now, which I don't put up with, but the problem is we don't have any physical connection anymore. I was planning on asking for a divorce in 2022, but then her mom just dropped dead. So I've been with her to help emotionally and financially, well over 100k in lawyer fees, for an estranged ex of her mom's who tried to claim common law and now probate. In 2023, she acted like a petulant child and made my mother cry with how horrible she was when my parents came to visit us. My mother still asks, to this day, if she is allowed to come visit, and my wife always comes up with a reason to say no. They just wanted to hand out candy to the kids on Halloween where we live, and my wife threw a frenzy about how she can't stand the sound of the door opening and closing. I had to set up a table outside for kids to grab candy and deal with my sobbing mother, upset stepfather, and a wife who refused to even see she was at fault at all. Keep in mind, I cleared this with the wife about a month beforehand and she was fine with it. She only got upset after they flew halfway across the country and got here. I asked for a divorce and she refused. Now, I have orders, I'm in the army, taking me out of this place and to a new state. She is also in the army and she is not going with me. I do my absolute best to keep myself happy and fulfilled. I actively feel myself being brought down every time I interact with her due to her negativity. We went through couples therapy. The therapist's words were common sense things I have been saying for years. She acted like they were a revelation, and then ignored them as soon as we were out of therapy. Am I the asshole for seeing this as the opportune time to divorce and try to have a happy life? That is all for this video. If you enjoy these stories, please remember to like and subscribe as it helps the channel very much. Cheers.